Hello. Welcome everyone to the Denise Newsom Show. We are back here this week with the ladies of Mask Off. I will be your host tonight, filling in for Miss Denise Newsom, who is also away on assignment. I am here with Deirdre Moody and also with our guest host, Charlotte Tillman. I'm sorry about that. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome. How you doing?
I'm
Welcome,
great.
Charlotte. How you
Hi,
doing?
ladies.
Hi,
Hi.
ladies.
So we are so glad that you are back with us this week. We had a wonderful conversation on last month. We talked a little bit about yourself in the book, and we're going to just reintroduce you again, but I'm going to have you do that, Charlotte, because nobody can tell a story better than you. So we're going to have you just give us, tell us a little bit about yourself and then kind of give us a recap what we talked about last week.
Well, I'm originally I was born and raised in Fort Myers, Florida, but I moved to Detroit, Michigan back in the early 70s. I'm married to my loving husband, Jeffrey, who treats me like a queen 24/7.
All right.
I was a victim of physical, sexual, mental, spiritual, you name it. I was a victim of it by my stepdad. From the time I was 11 until I was 13. And I wrote a book, The Ring of Life. And basically what it is a journey. It's my journey from survival to where I'm at now. Basically, it's what I endured, what my sisters and my siblings also endured at the hands of a man who said, I love you, you're my child, and all of that craziness involved with it. But it's just my pathway of inner healing and getting back to me again. And I wrote the book to basically share with everyone, to let young ladies and young men know that you're not alone. You're not the only one that these things happen to. And it's a way out. And that way out for me was prayer, seeking God, and finding me again through inner healing and deliverance.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, we're so happy to have you back on this week, and we're going to just dive right into the conversation. We talked about so many things last week, and one of the things that really touched me deeply, because I'm also a suicide survivor, and so I quite understand some of the things that you may be experiencing mentally when you was going through your ordeal. I guess one of the things we can touch on, Deirdre, we had talked about some things last week. I know there was a question or two that we did not have time to bring up. I don't know if you want to bring that up at this moment.
I do want to bring it up, but I'm not sure if this is the right time. But I think the last question I wanted to ask on that show was, you talked a little bit about, the suicide, the different things that you faced as a result of wanting to attempt suicide. And I wanted to know, how did depression play a role with your suicidal thoughts when you were going through your processes? I think that's the last question.
When you're going through that process, you feel like nobody else. You feel like you're alone in it, that you're by yourself.
Okay.
You don't know who to turn to because you don't know who to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I didn't feel like I had anybody. I had my sisters and I had my brothers, but I still felt like I was by myself because they were still dealing with things also, and dealing with the things that they were, battling with when it came to what we had to endure as children.
Okay.
And in my relationships, I looked, again, like I said before, I was looking for that father figure. So I was jumping from this relationship to that relationship, thinking that, that would comfort what I was missing because I didn't have my dad. And it got to a point to where you get to a point to where you don't care anymore about life. You don't care anymore about your situation or what you're going through. And for me, it was like the only way to end it was to end my life, because it's like you want to end the suffering that you're going through.
Okay.
Because what I found out years later was that we battle with so many things, but again, it's a trust factor
Mhm.
because when you're entangled in relationships and trauma, disappointments, hurts, everything plays a key part to being depressed.
Mhm.
I felt like I was failing myself. I felt like I was failing my children. And to me, my only way out was to end it, and you can go to the church and you can talk to people and you can go to your pastor, you can go to quote unquote friends, but no one really has an answer until you find you again. And for me, it was a lot of prayer, a lot of seeking and asking God, what was next? What was I here for? You know.
Yeah, I find that and you're right on point with that, because one of the things that a lot of people deal with, especially when the thoughts of suicide comes up, is when they do start getting into a real deep depression. And when you get into that deep depression, it's almost like, and we know it's demonic, because the enemy will rehearse in your mind over and over and over all the negative, all
Mhm.
the things that traumatize you, all the things that you think you can never get over. And then on top of that, he beats you with the fact that you're not worthy, you're not this, nobody likes you, nobody is going to accept you, you're not going to be anything in
Mhm.
life. And then instantaneously the thought is, I don't need to be here anymore, I want to
Yeah.
vanish, I just want to disappear, I don't want to be around anyone. But one of the things, I did take like one of these suicide prevention courses.
Mhm.
um I got a certification for it, where you can actually hear, like when you're talking to someone, there are like key things that people will say that will give you an indication that they may be contemplating suicide. My question for you is, if you had someone like that, maybe that would have picked up on some of those signs, or were you one of those that just hit it so well that nobody would have known that you were going to do that?
I stayed to myself. I was a loner. I didn't like to have friends around me. I literally, and this is the truth, I didn't start venturing out until I got in my 50s. as
Oh
far
wow.
as having as far as having friends and somebody I can say was a friend and somebody I can trust. I always stayed to myself. I stayed to myself because I didn't want anyone to look at me
Right.
differently or
Mhm.
think things about me. And even with my children, I kind of hid things from them because I didn't want them to know what I was battling and dealing with. Because, like you said before, the devil, he plays over and over and over again in your mind. And it's like a reel that's constantly going. And for me, it was, you're not worthy. You're not worthy. Just end it now. Your kids are better off. Look at look at where you're at. And it takes a toll because then you start to thinking and you start to believing. And then when you're in relationships as well, where you're being browbeaten 24/7, that person that says they love you constantly browbeating you and telling you, degrading you and saying things that are, not so nice. I'll put it that way. You get to believe that about yourself. And that's when your self esteem starts to drop even more. And you could be 5 years old or 50 years old. If someone constantly tells you you're not worthy and you're worthless, and basically you're like the dirt under their feet, at a certain point in time you get to feeling like you are.
Wow. Wow. Deirdre, did you have any comments or questions that you wanted to bring to Charlotte?
I don't have any questions right now. I'm just taking in all of the information that she's providing. I do want to add, just as women, sometimes because we have so many different things that we are responsible for, especially once we have children, and then we're still dealing with our past. So as you were going on with your life, you're still dealing with your past, and
Right.
now you're trying to deal with your future and the past, but the past is over, is dominating your future.
Right.
And I just think as women, we have so many different things that we deal with on a regular basis. I can't even imagine, because
Right.
the weight of all of that, and just trying to be a woman and trying to get the kids fed and all this other stuff, I couldn't even imagine it. But I do want to say I honor you for being able to get to the next level in your life despite of the circumstances. The other thing is I want to say there's something called not physical abuse, but mental abuse.
Yeah.
Mental abuse is
Mm,
one of
good.
the worst abuses you can deal with, because when someone is always telling you that you're not a thing, right?
Hmm.
Because that's not scripture. They're telling you everything that you're not. And it's unfortunate, even though physical abuse is the worst abuse, but
Right.
mental abuse will kill you, because
Hmm.
you'll actually believe that. And the fact that you have also overcame that as well, that's blessed too. But if you can elaborate even on that, because physical abuse is worse than mental abuse. Mental abuse is worse, but physical abuse
Yeah,
is bad.
totally
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, with the mental, I think mine was early childhood was physical.
Okay.
Young adulthood and into adulthood was mental. Because again, I got into relationships to where you're still being told you're worthless.
Right.
You're still being told you won't amount to anything,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And you carry your past, like you said before, along, you carry that into your future because you still have that in the back of your mind. I'm worthless. I'm not going to amount to anything, and then you start looking at where you're at. For me, I started looking at where I was at, and I didn't feel like I was where I needed to be or where God wanted me to be. I felt like I should have accomplished a lot more. And that's when you
Right.
start
Right.
feeling
Right.
like you're failing your kids, you're failing your family and everything else. And then that plays a big part in it too. For me, it was an overall, I wanted to save the world, but I couldn't save the world because I couldn't save myself.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You
That's
understand what
so,
I'm saying?
yeah.
So that even puts you deeper. I used to tell people I was in a pit. I would have these dreams of waking up and I was falling and it wasn't a bottom, and I had those dreams for years. And I would wake up sometimes, I would be conscious, eyes open, but I would feel like somebody was sitting on my back,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
and I dealt with that for years. And all it was demonic forces that still had itself tied to me that I didn't
Absolutely.
know how to get rid of, you know. But again, for me, it was a lot of praying, a lot of praying. I'm not going to even lie. A lot of praying and a lot of seeking God's face and asking the question a lot of times, why me? And then one day he said, why not you? It's all about how you're going to come out. Are you going to come out on top, or are you going to keep allowing these things to keep you down? And I had to make up my mind. I needed to come out on top.
Wow. Amen. That's good. That's good. Well, I just wanted to say to our audience that is viewing us right now. We do see several of you are coming in. If you have any questions for Charlotte Tillman, or you have any questions even or comments on the topic, please let us know. Write them in the chat. We will do our best to try to get to each and every one of you. This is really good, Charlotte. Yeah, I totally agree, Deirdre, that mental abuse is a lot more damaging than
Mhm.
physical abuse. And not to say that physical abuse is not as bad. It is bad,
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I truly believe that no one should be physically touched and abused, and especially men abusing women. I totally agree with that. But I believe it's the mental abuse, and I believe they go hand in hand too.
Yeah.
Because you can't have the physical without the mental, because it starts off as mental, and
Hmm.
then you become more physical, abusive after that. And it's so true that um, this is why I find that even a lot of times when you're consistently being told or consistently um, being looked at as a certain way, it really just diminishes your self-esteem. It
Hmm.
just, diminishes every part of you. And it takes a lot. They always say that for every negative word that someone says to you, it takes every positive. It
Hmm.
takes about seven positives to try to overact that or counteract that. And it's very difficult. We see in the news. I believe there was a young lady, a young girl. I don't know if you guys have seen that, killed herself, 11-year-old, because of bullying.
Yeah.
I just saw in the news today, a husband killed his wife and two kids, and then killed himself
Yeah.
afterwards. So we do know that mental abuse, not mental abuse, just mental illness, mental things are just on the rise at the moment. So let me ask you, Charlotte. So now we do have a couple of people watching and viewing. Um, what would you say? Because I believe that just there's many men out there who also go through types of depression and mental abuse also, whether it's from another woman or their peers, or from their jobs, or just maybe from something that happened to them when they were young. Maybe they were molested, they were raped. What would you say to them in having to try to deal with this, and what's the next steps that they can do based on your experiences?
For me, and I'm gonna say for my siblings as well, you have to find an avenue. You have to find that secret place. Um, a lot of times when I would feel myself getting to a point to where I couldn't talk to anybody, I would find that one spot where I can go, even if it was the bathroom, the bedroom. But I needed that one spot where I can go and just lay it all down and just talk to God and just wait patiently for him to answer me. And I had to find that one person that I could go to, that I knew I could trust, that I could talk to as well, that was a listening ear. A lot of times, like I said before, I didn't feel like I had anybody because I didn't want people to judge me or look at me a certain way. I didn't want them to think that I was losing my mind per se. And
Right.
I had to find an avenue. And for me, that avenue was landed, I'll say making an altar and laying on that altar and just asking God to lead and guide me. And I asked God to send me someone or direct me to someone that I could talk to. One thing I love about my husband is that he always tells me, you have a voice. Use your voice no matter what. Don't let anybody, you know, keep your voice from being, keep you from using your voice. And even with being with my husband, I've learned to speak a little more, use my voice a little more. Praise God for that. But
Mm.
you also need someone that can pray with you. I had someone tell me one time, if you don't know how to pray, talk to God like you're talking to me.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, like we're talking now, talk to God the same way. He hears you, he understands. And a lot of times, like I said, we want things to come at that right then and there, but it's all in God's timing. Like I said, when I asked God, why me? He said, why not you? You know, um, my daughter had a friend who committed suicide. She hung herself, and my daughter, her kids found her, and my daughter went and they cut her down. But she was dealing with so much, so much. I mean, it wasn't just physical, it was mental. It was everything boiled up in one bag. and she didn't know how to handle it. And that's what happens with a lot of us. We get to a point and place where it's like, I have no other avenue, because you feel like you don't. And you hear about the self-help groups, and you hear about the different places that you can go, the different lines and different places you can call for help. But even then, people still, I know I felt like, are they going to really listen? And that's a hard question to a certain degree, because you really don't. It took me a long time to trust.
Mhm.
It took me a really long time to trust.
Mhm.
I think for a lot of men and women, especially men, because
Yeah,
men are taught, to be the man of the house, and
right, right.
you're the protector. But men are abused physically and mentally just like women. You just don't hear it as much, and
Yeah.
we had a young man who contemplated suicide. But it was also because of how he was being treated, how his family was treating him. It wasn't the outside world, it was the family. And we deal with it in our families too.
Wow, wow, wow.
I want to
I,
say it's the world we live in, but it's also the ones we be around. Sometimes
Mhm.
your family can push you to that point. They can browbeat you and beat you down and tell you you're worthless and everything else. And it's like, where do we run to? I ran to God. I ran to God.
Yeah.
To me, that was the only way for me to get where I needed to be, and for me to get deliverance and healing,
Mhm.
was taking all of my issues and all of my problems to God. And I journaled. Writing helped me cope with a lot of things I was dealing with. As I
Wow.
wrote my feelings down and what I was going through, it helped me heal from a lot of the things I dealt with.
Wow. Wow. That's heavy, and our condolences to, I don't know how recent it was, the young lady that your daughter had saw committed suicide. That's really heavy, you know. But, as you were saying, you talk especially with family. It's almost, and there's a saying that broken people hurt broken people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And it's just, instead of like doing what the Bible says, having grace for each other, building each other up, loving each other more, we tend to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Deirdre, what's your comments? And everything?
You know, she gave us such a mouthful. I was trying to figure out how I was going to ask these questions while she was talking. Um, you talked about support groups, but you also talked about people, right? And this is my thought when you talk about people, because you were saying, well, the people weren't there, uh, they didn't know how to listen, or they couldn't fully hear you. Do you think, for you in your situation, do you think the act of wanting to commit suicide was more based on the circumstance that you went through, or was it, I know I'm all over the place with this question, but did it have more to deal with the fact that people couldn't understand what you were going through, and then you felt like, well, now I got to commit this thing because they don't understand and I can't get nobody to understand? Does that make sense? Does that
Yeah.
question make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense. And that was a part of it. I felt
Okay.
like people didn't understand what I
Okay.
was going through and what I was dealing with.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
a lot of times
Yeah,
when you tell a person what you're dealing with and what you're going through, if they've never been through it,
Mm.
they don't really know how to address it.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and then
And
too,
I know,
again,
like, even
my
for
biggest
me,
issue was
yeah,
trust.
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I even know that even for me, uh, and if you're watching right now, you see the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273 08255. They'll correct that number. But please, if anyone out there is feeling depressed and needs someone to talk to and don't have anyone to
Mhm.
talk to, please call someone on that line, and we will be bringing it back periodically on the show. Again, there is the correct number, 1-800-273-8255. And I know one of the things that when I was dealing with that, and I'm sure you can agree, Charlotte, I think it's a progression. I think
Hmm.
it builds up over
Yes.
time, because it's not just one or two incidences that happen and you say, all right, no, I got to kill myself. I think it's a series of events that happens over a process of time,
Yes.
and you don't know when it's going to be that next event that's going to be your breaking point, till
Hmm.
you say, you know what, that is it, I've had enough, I
Hmm.
cannot deal with this anymore, and I want to end it. So I know that's how it was for me. It was just building up and building up and building up, and as it's building up, I'm getting more depressed and more depressed
Hmm.
and more depressed. And then that next one incident that happened, you know, that was it. Whether it's you're getting into an argument with someone, or whether someone has said something very offensive, and any other time it may not have been too offensive, but because you've already been in this building stage of this depression, it's that one thing that's
Hmm.
like, all right, that did it, that did it. And this is why we have to be very careful. And and it's easier said than done for all of us. Depending on what we're going through during the day, depending on what we're dealing with on the job and with family. And everybody has a day. Everyone has a day. But and you never know that the person that you're talking with, or the person that you
Hmm.
meet with, or someone that you bumped into at the store. It could be just anything, just very simple. You just don't know. That could have been that one thing that kind of pushed that person over the edge, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do? It's what do you do?
And
What do you do?
it's crazy you say that because I say that all the time. You never know what you say to an individual to push them over. It was one thing that was said the last time I attempted to kill myself. One thing that was said that pushed me over the edge. I won't go into it, but I was already at that point to where I was giving up. But then it was some words that was spoken that just sent me, over the edge. And it was after that I didn't know who I was. I didn't. And that's when the devil just took hold and did whatever he had to do to make, to push me on a little further, you know.
Right, right, right.
Well, I look
Well,
at
no,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
but I
No,
look at
no.
a lot of the celebrities. Robin Williams hung himself,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. The young lady, Miss America, who jumped out of the window and killed herself,
yeah, yeah.
20 some years old. Another young lady was in college, 20 some years old. Her parents
Yeah.
had just talked to her. She killed herself.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
Charlotte, we're going to just put you on hold for a quick second while we go for a commercial break. Those of you that are watching, please stay tuned. We got a short commercial break for you, but we will be right back.
Dr. Kiana Battle gives service from the heart, focusing on training, education, and professional development. Specialty areas include grief and loss, trauma, informed practice, policy development, grant writing development, public school social work education, professional presentation, and youth and adolescent development. Consulting service fees are based on specific specialty areas. There is no charge for the initial consulting. You can contact Dr. Kiana Battle today by emailing her at info@kbattleconsulting.com or visit her website at www.kbattleconsulting.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Well, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Kiana Battle. We also want to thank Robert Vilmer. You could find his books on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. And we also wanted to thank UOU Self Care Products for sponsoring the Denise Newsom show. So, welcome back, ladies. We just want to dive back into our conversation. We are here with Charlotte Tillman and Deirdre Moody, talking about suicide and some mental depression, and talking about some things that affect individuals when dealing with some of the mental things or some of the things that they do or they experience that causes them to want to commit suicide or have actually gone through it. So, Charlotte, just to recap a little bit what you were talking about, you mentioned how we see so many celebrities and so forth that even in the entertainment field, you think that everything is going great for them. They got money, and I believe what is that young man, Deirdre? What's his name? The one that recently
Um,
passed away.
what's his name? Twitch?
Yes.
Twitch, Twitch.
Yes.
You know, another one. I that one just totally blown me away because he just looked as happy as a button. He had his
Hmm.
family and children, you know, and just imagine what was going through his mind, you know, off camera that made him want to do that.
Hmm.
Uh, so, Deirdre, do you have any other questions or anything that you want to touch on?
I think I'm probably the person that's going to be asking a whole lot of questions tonight. Maybe because I get to sit on the side this time, Sybil. But I was thinking as Charlotte was talking, I was thinking about, because I'm a breast cancer survivor, I know it's kind of hard to kind of add this into that. But one of the things I wanted to say is that after you have gone through all that you've gone through, would you say that the very thing that brung you pain brought you purpose?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain and elaborate on that?
The one thing, I look at what I've been through and it just makes me stronger.
Mm.
It lets me know that I have more to live for. I have more that God wants me to do.
Amen.
And it motivates me to push forward. Um, it motivates me to just tell everybody, you're not by yourself. You're not by yourself. I look at so many young people and I look at the issues they deal with on a daily basis. I look at my grandkids and my great grands and what they deal with at school, the bullying, um, not having things that they think they should have.
Mhm.
We went on a ministry trip this past weekend and we prayed for a young lady and her mom. And the young lady was being bullied at school. I mean,
Wow.
12 years old. And it got to it's at a point where she's afraid to go to school. Some things happen. I won't go into it, but some things happen to where this baby is afraid to go back to school because of it, you know? And we worry about our young kids. We worry about our children and what they have to deal with going to school. We don't know what they're facing. We don't know the bullying and who's saying this or that to them. And then we were talking about the college at Ashdown where the students got together and rallied together to pray for all of the, for the rest of the students and students all over,
Mhm.
all of the mass shootings and the mass killings and people running into buildings, killing people. I don't, I think to myself, what were they dealing with to make them set them off to do something like that? What were they battling with in their mind? What was their home life like? And then you look at the ages of the ones that's doing the killing.
Yeah.
I saw one where a young man was in his 20s. And then I saw this morning, like you were saying before, this morning where young man, 22 years old, killed himself and his wife. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it just seems like there's just a perpetuating cycle
Hmm.
that is never ending. Um, where you have young kids that come out of broken homes, and we just see it on such a great on a high level.
Hmm.
You know, we really need to pray. We need to really try. I'm a big advocate on, you know, especially with the church, to going out, doing outreach, and going out into the community, and to try to do something, or set up these programs, or, you know, work in collaboration with schools and different places where we can really try to reach these young people. And we even find that going on even a lot in the church as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
with young people, that seems to be. And this is why a lot of them are not even coming into the church. It's just so much stuff that they're dealing with. And I just think it's just this generation as it is. And you know, there was a time even when we were growing up, um you know, we went through things. I wouldn't say there were as much different. The only thing that we didn't really have is the social media, you
Right.
know, but we did have the beeper and the phones, and, you know, hanging out in school and stuff like that. I'm going way back. Oh, and you know, and they had the bullying, the gangs, and so forth. But it was just a different tone, I guess, compared to now. So now it's like you got young people, all they need, they can just take to have their phones, and they can just be in a dark place by themselves, and the stuff that they're seeing that's coming up on the feeds, all
Hmm.
this negativity, all this stuff that is just so out there, and everybody wants to try to look like somebody, and
Yeah.
everybody is trying to they're putting on this facade, like, you know, they don't like who they are, like this mask is on,
Hmm.
that's not them. And everybody is hiding. And I believe that has a lot to do with the depression too, because you can't really be who you are if you're consistently hiding who you are, you know. And I think that all adds to the mental abuse. But you know, what would you say, Charlotte? I mean, what can we say to these young people? Or I don't even think it's just young people anymore. I'm just saying people together. Like, what do we say to them to try to convince them? Because, you know, we could try to draw them to God, but, you know, a lot of them are not, who may not be saved, may not be believers. They may not feel like that's not the right approach for them. What can we do? What can we do as a community to try to make some changes, and to, I don't know, just, you know, what can we do as a people, as a community, to reach out to those that are really suffering with this depression?
You know, it's okay. I'm gonna give you an example. My great grandson called me. He texted me and was telling me how he was upset with his mom, my granddaughter, and he was like, "I just want to run away." And I had to ask him, like, "What's going on?" You know, and he's 12, but he had told me a while back that he hears voices, and the voices tell him to do crazy things. And I found that with a lot of our young adults, it's the environment that they're in.
Yeah,
You know, it's the environment that they're in, and it's like you want to, like I said before, you want to save the world, but you can't save the world.
yeah,
Um, and I tell a lot of them also, it's a choice you have to make. You have to make up in your mind that you won't change. You know, we can't browbeat them and take them to church and tell them, oh, just go to church and the church gonna help you. Or
right, right,
we
right,
can
right.
even tell them, okay, pray about it. But just telling them, actions are more than, to me, actions are more than anything. We have to
Absolutely.
show, you know, my apostle always says, Apostle Darrell always tell us, you show love in action. You can speak love all day long, but if you don't show it, nobody
Mhm.
really knows.
Absolutely.
You know, nobody really knows. Um, a lot of young adults, again, they don't have that person that they can have an ear, you know, to hear what's going on with them. You know, they feel closed off. We have a lot of them in the church. They feel closed off. How do
Mm,
you reach them? You show them love.
absolutely.
I mean, and we do that a lot at the hub. We show a lot of love. We let them know we love you. We're always here for you. If you need to talk, we can talk. And I tell them all the time, you can call me all day long, all night long. It doesn't matter. If you need to talk, just call me, email me, FaceTime me, whatever you need to do. But it's a it's love in action. That's why I look at it. I look at it as love in action. We have
It's
to
like,
show them that we there for them. No
mhm,
matter what you're dealing with, I'm here. And then
yes,
once, a lot of times when you get with young people, young adults, and you tell them your testimony or what you've been through and what you dealt with, they look at it and be like, wow, and I thought it was just me. It may have happened to me 15 years ago, but it happened. And this is how I handled it, you know. And when you reach out to a lot of them that way and just be, as they say, I don't know how the kids be saying, how you supposed to be word up or whatever they call it. But when you're 100 with them, you
right,
and
right.
not trying
That's
to
it.
sugarcoat anything, but just be real.
Yeah.
Just be real with them and just tell them.
I totally agree with that, and we've actually have the pleasure of having our show. Denise Newsom is on watching, and how you doing, Nisi? We're so glad that you could tune in. She did have a question for you. When did you know, or when did you were able to take your mask off, and when did you know that your mask was off?
When I started doing the book literally when I was 11, I believe it was 11, but I was journaling before then. But really, a few years ago, I'm not gonna lie,
Mm,
a few years ago, when I got with the young lady who actually did the ghostwriting for my book, and she brought a lot out, meaning I had to go back to where I was. I had to go back to where I was, and I had to forgive. I thought I had forgiven the individual, but that did it, but I hadn't. I didn't. And doing this book, I had to relive a whole lot of things. And I had to sit down and say, Lord, I forgive them for what they did. And that's when that mask came off, is when I did this book, believe it or not. And it was like, okay, now it's time to you step out on faith. You need to step out like you're supposed to. You need to walk in authority like you're supposed to. Be the voice that God gave you, and
yeah,
let people know you're not by yourself. Take the
yeah,
mask off and stop pretending like everything is hunky dory or everything is perfect, because it's not. And I find that when you're up front with teenagers, young adults, even adults, it opens up them a little bit more to where they can open up a little bit more and tell you what's going on, or what they're dealing with and what helps them. I've had people come up to me from my job, my church, saying that the book helped them because it opened up avenues for them to be able to forgive, to find out what their purpose was and who they are and how they can, depend and, rely on God and
yeah.
not rely on man. Because man can give you certain things, but God can give you everything.
God can
Mhm.
give you
You know,
everything. He sure can. Save my life.
help.
He saved, I'm telling you, he saved my life.
Yeah.
Literally saved my life. And I can attest to that. And it's so true that your testimony is the best witness. It's
Mm-hmm.
the best witness, it's the best approach, it is the best tool to allow people to understand, because people don't want to talk to somebody that don't know what they've been through
Yeah.
or don't understand what they're going through. Don't give me any type of textbook um notation or anything or what you think I should do. I need to know from someone that you've been through what I've been through, and I need you to help me through that. you
Right.
know that's the only way that it can be truly received. We have about another 10 minutes left, and one of the questions I do want to ask before we do go, um, the support of your husband and your children now.
It's
since
off the
you're
chain. Off the chain. It took wow. For my husband, it took me a minute. I'm still getting there because I always tell him I'm not used to someone doing for me.
yeah,
Mm.
I'm used to doing everything by myself and for myself. And
yeah,
to have someone treat me like the queen I am, give me anything I want. He may fuss every now and then
yeah, yeah,
in the back, but he allows me to be me, and that's the biggest thing. He allows me to be me.
yeah,
And my children are like my lifeline as well. It's like whatever you want to do, mama. I ain't gonna read your book, but whatever you want to do, you know. But having a support system like my children and my husband is the best thing you can have. And another big supporter is my church, the hub, because a lot of the people, a lot of the women and men and children that go there, they came in broken, but they leaving out whole, you know.
Mm.
But
yeah.
my husband Jeffrey is one of my biggest supporters,
That's
so I got to give
wonderful.
him kudos for that.
All right, kudos to Mr. Tillman.
Heal, heal, heal.
You got you, and you know what? It's so true, and I think about it. And if my husband is listening, I just want to thank him, because even though it has been 20, I would say about 35 years since I've
Hmm.
gone through that suicide attempt.
Mm.
And a lot of times, sometimes you get these triggers
Yeah.
that do come back. And I mean, we can control it now, we know how to deal with it. But there are times when they do come,
Hmm.
and he will always come and show me love at that moment when I need it. He don't even know what I'm thinking about sometimes, or what I may be feeling through a down moment. So I
Right.
just, baby, I just want to thank you for always being there for me, and being my support. Um, but I do understand that, and it's nothing like having family support,
Hmm.
someone that they have your back, you know and you look how God turned it around for you. He took you from a place where you had people in your family or whatever that you felt like it was just bringing you down, and the mental abuse and everything that you went through. And then now on the other side,
Hmm.
um, look what God has done for you. It's just miraculous, miraculous. So if anyone out there is listening, if you feel like there is no hope, you feel like there is no going forward with your life, again, please use the numbers down at the bottom. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. You can also call the crisis text line at 741-741. That's text 741-741, and there will be someone that can help you and assist you wherever you are. And we got about another 5 minutes left. Deirdre, did you have any last comments for Charlotte?
Of course, I had a comment. Okay, but I wanted to say this. You made a really good point about the church, right?
Hmm.
Because I work in the ministry and do a lot of things with support groups and different things like that. And Charlotte, I remember you saying that you belong to a healing and deliverance ministry.
Yes,
Mm,
ma'am.
And so because of that, I was thinking about how the mission of Christ was for him to change mindsets, right?
Hmm.
And that is what God is always coming after, the mindset.
Yeah.
He's what people have said about us, what people have told us about ourselves.
Hmm.
He's coming for the mindset, right? And so healing and deliverance, that's what we deal with a lot.
Yeah.
What's been said to us, what have
mm,
been told to us during our trauma, because you brought
Yes.
up the word trauma
Hmm.
in your beginning of you introducing yourself. What does the church need to do? Because I'm not looking at you like you're just a regular person that's just sitting on the
Right.
pool. You're now voicing what has happened to you and how it can help others, right? And your husband is pushing you to open your voice more or to say more so that other people can get healed and they can get whole via your testimony. What does the church need to do? I think we have kind of like, we've been doing some stuff so old school. We just say Jesus is wonderful and think people supposed to get healed. But Sybil, you're absolutely correct that we do have to tell our testimony. What do we have to do different?
Stop pushing everything under the rug.
Yeah.
A lot of churches push it under the rug.
Yes.
They do.
You hit it on the nail.
Right. I belong to a few churches.
Okay.
Where everything was pushed under the rug. You can't pray about everything, you know.
Ooh.
I'm not saying that prayer doesn't work.
Yes.
But in every situation you need help, physical help.
Yes.
You know, physical help. And I found a lot of churches push things under the rug. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to pray about it. No, we need to talk about it.
Yes.
Because there's so much damage in the church. And so many people still damaged in the church.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know church leaders now, you know, I have people I know now that are still in the same place that they were in 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where's the growth?
Absolutely.
There's no growth.
Absolutely. So transparency is key. It is very key. We have about 1 minute left. I just want to thank Charlotte for just wonderful, wonderful 2 sessions. We had the privilege of being with you and you just sharing your testimony and some great words of wisdom. And it was such a delight to hear how God has turned your situation around and how he has given you the fruit in your latter days of, you know, this great support system, a great church, a great ministry. And I just want to thank God for you. You had a purpose and God is bringing that into light now. So we just want to thank Charlotte Tillman for joining us. We want to thank Deirdre Moody, my partner in crime.
Yes.
And of course, we want to thank our Denise Newsom, the Denise Newsom Show. She is on assignment, and she trusted us dearly to host in her behalf. And we just thank you, Denise. We love you. Again, for anyone that is out there, please take note of these numbers. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text the crisis line at 741-741. We just want to thank Charlotte Tillman again for being on the show. We will be back on next month. Remember, every third Monday at 8 p.m. We just want to say good night. Thank all those who are viewing in, and God bless.
I hope you enjoyed this evening's broadcast. Our new show times are as follows. The first Monday of the month will be a powerful word from God. The second Monday is In Your Element, where our guests share their gifts and talents. The third Monday, join the ladies of Mask Off, where authentic conversation happens, with our hostesses Denise Newsom, Sybil Price Rucker, and Deirdre Moody. And the fourth Monday is Sitting with Denise. All show times are from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Denise Newsom Show, the show that gives credit where credit is due. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share at the Denise Newsom Show. Increase your brand's awareness by advertising with the Denise Newsom Show. Let Denise help you to get your message out. She offers a 30-second video commercial or a voiceover flyer with your information. Contact Denise at denisenewsom.com or email her at denisenewsom64@gmail.com. for more information. Help the Denise Newsome Show give credit where credit is due. You can contact Denise today at www.denisenewsome.com or by emailing her at denisenewsome64@gmail.com with a love offering or sponsorship gift to help keep her show running. You are appreciated at the Denise Newsome Show, and she looks forward to hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in to this evening's broadcast. Next week on the Denise Newsome Show will be a powerful word of God from Elder Crystal Loholt.